Music legend Dolly Parton is known for her blonde hair and happy demeanor, but she's so much more than that. From being inspired by cemeteries to the time a fan left her a diaper-wearing present, the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer has had quite the unusual life. Dolly Parton comes from a huge family, and in her memoir Dolly, she wrote about how her parents would task the older children with caring for a specific younger child. So when her mother shared that she was pregnant with a child that would be Dolly's special sibling, she was over the moon. During the pregnancy, however, Dolly's mother was hospitalized with spinal meningitis, so the family was told to prepare for the worst. While Parton's mother survived, her baby Larry did not. Parton wrote in her book, "I was inconsolable. I wouldn't leave Larry's grave. I would take a lantern up on a hill and sit there most of the night talking to him and crying." Parton wrote that the grief eventually turned to acceptance, but she recalled a surreal experience shortly after Larry's heartbreaking death. She wrote about being cuddled up in bed with her siblings when they all heard someone come in through the front door, then move through the house. Although her mother feared it was death coming for another member of her family, not everyone agreed. Parton wrote, "Some thought it might have been Larry's ghost, since his grave was right up on the hill. Whatever it was, we all sensed it, and nobody ever really had a true explanation." Dolly Parton has always embraced her appearance, with her over-the-top devotion to big hair, heavy makeup, flashy clothes, and other accessories.
I always believe that a person should be who they are.
She wrote in Dolly that she developed those accessories when she was just 12 years old. At the same time, she reached her adult height of 5'2". She had already known that dressing up made her happy, but it didn't exactly make her a favorite in school. Parton wrote in her memoir, "I was not well liked in school. I had an unearned reputation for being a tramp. It's no secret that kids are cruel, and she learned firsthand just how cruel they can be." She recalled going to school one day to find everyone avoiding her more than usual. Days went by before she learned there was a story going around that she had been sexually assaulted by a group of men in a nearby lumberyard, and she was horrified. Parton wrote, "If it had been true, wouldn't I have been an innocent victim rather than someone to be shunned and looked down upon?" Dolly Parton sat down for an interview with Playboy in 1978 and told a terrifying story about her first trip to New York City. Parton, who was 21 years old at the time, and a friend decided they wanted to see what the big deal about X-rated movies was. So they headed into a seedy part of the city and slipped into an adult theater. She recalled in the interview, "It looked okay for a few minutes, and all of a sudden it got into the most gross things. I didn't know how to react, and she didn't either. So we ran out and we started running." They were trying to flag down a cab when they were approached by several men. The men thought they were sex workers and wouldn't take no for an answer. One grabbed Parton, who described to Playboy what happened next. "He kept pulling at me and I was getting furious and I was cussing him. And I got my gun out of my pocketbook. I told the man, 'If you put your hands on me one more time, I swear to God that I will shoot you.' And I would have." The men eventually left, but after the experience, it took Parton a very long time to feel comfortable in New York City again.
I love New York now.
Parton told Vanity Fair that her favorite part of her career has always been writing songs. However, her way of finding inspiration is a little unexpected. She goes to cemeteries. She spoke about it in a 1984 interview with ABC News, saying, "I love cemeteries because when I was growing up, people always took care of the graveyards. It's like a golf course. It's a very peaceful, quiet place to go where nobody but weirdos like me really want to hang out." She went on to say that she spent a lot of time reading the tombstones and creating vibrant stories about what each person had been like in life. She imagines happy couples, big families, and stories about why some people are buried alone. Even though it's the 21st century, child-free women still tend to get bombarded with a ton of intrusive questions, and Dolly Parton is no exception. For instance, in a 2014 chat with The Guardian, Parton was asked about her decision not to have children. She responded, "Anyway, my husband and I talked about it, and we dreamed about it, but it wasn't meant to be. Now that we're older, we're glad."
I make a better aunt than I would a mother, I think.
Parton then added that although she would have loved to be a mother, it would have meant putting her career on the back burner. There was a little more to it, though. Although she doesn't talk about it much, the early 1980s were a difficult time for her. Health problems forced Parton to cancel a tour in 1982 when abdominal pain and severe bleeding sent her to the hospital. She eventually underwent a partial hysterectomy. Parton says that it was difficult, but in hindsight, she wouldn't change anything. In a 2019 interview with Today, she said that she was grateful that her career had allowed her to touch the lives of so many children, particularly through her imagination library. "God has a plan for everything. I think it probably was his plan for me not to have kids so everybody's kids could be mine, and they are now."
I'm the Dolly mama.
Dolly Parton might seem like the happiest person around, but she still admitted to struggling with depression. In 2014, she sat down with the Mirror to talk about her upcoming tour and said that in spite of appearances, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. She told the outlet, "Depression runs in my family on both sides, and I have to be wary. It's usually brought on by something that's going on in the family, and if there are problems, sometimes it's a lot for one little person to carry." The singer also got incredibly candid in a 1986 interview with Ladies' Home Journal. In it, Parton talked about one period in particular when she dealt with health scares, family arguments, and what she described as an affair of the heart that left her in a months-long depression. When asked if she had ever contemplated suicide, she responded, "I got close once. I looked at the gun for a long time, wondering and saying to myself, well now, this is where people get the idea of suicide, isn't it? She credits her dog Popeye as being there for her, saying that he was her spiritual messenger from God. She then added, after that, my life changed in a positive way. Dolly Parton is the first to make jokes about her appearance, but when she does speak seriously about it, it's the sort of thing that will tug on anyone's heartstrings. While speaking about her appearance on the Work Life with Adam Grant podcast, Parton said, I wasn't a natural beauty, and so I just like to look the way I look. I'm so outgoing inside my personality that I need the way I look to match all of that. She's been candid, too, about how many people have tried to change her. The powers that be in the music industry always told her to tone it down a bit, saying that no one was ever going to believe she was a serious musician. When she spoke with Playboy back in the 1970s, Parton explained that if she wanted to be a sex symbol, she'd dress extremely differently. She also explained her reasoning for not changing, saying, it's this, if I can't make it on my talent, then I don't want to do it. I have to look the way I choose to look, and this is what I've chosen. It makes me different a little bit, and ain't that what we all want to do, be a little different? In an interview with Windy City Times, Parton was asked about the craziest thing that had happened to her with a fan. She said that early on in her career, right after Jolene had become a hit, she came home one day to find a box in her driveway. Inside the box was a baby. Parton immediately called the authorities and handed the baby over. She said that although she often wondered what happened to the baby, she never found out. Parton told the outlet, there was no way to track it and I didn't want to. That was the wildest thing. The idea of Dolly Parton offending an entire group of people to the point where they feel it necessary to send threats sounds pretty unthinkable, but it happened. In a 2012 interview with Nightline, she talked about a variety of topics, including her long-standing and well-known support of the LGBTQ+ community.
If you're gay, you're gay. If you're straight, you're straight. And you should be allowed to be, how you are.
Her support so offended the Ku Klux Klan that she started getting threats. Parton, however, didn't back down. She said on the show, when it first started, there were people giving us threats. I still get threats, but like I said, I'm in business. I just don't feel like I have to explain myself. I love everybody. Ever wonder about the secret to world peace and happiness? Dolly Parton just might have it. When Forbes asked Parton about her personal life philosophy, she replied that it was one that was deeply rooted in faith, spirituality, and her belief in God. She told the outlet, I take the gifts that God has given me and expecting me to do something with, and I just try to find the good and the light in every person, rather than judging them by what they might be doing or how they might be acting. She added that even though she formed her strong faith as a child, she knew that it wasn't for everyone. In fact, she wrote in her memoir that it doesn't bother her if someone doesn't believe. As long as they're a good person, they're good by her. She wrote, while Christianity and its symbols are powerful parts of my own life, I'm not one of those who believes that a person has to embrace them to be a decent human being. Spirituality is the most intimate part of a person's makeup, and it's strictly up to the individual to choose how to express it.
I just think we need to dig down a little deeper and try to be a little kinder to one another and accept one another.
It's a simple fact of life that no one gets through without at least a few regrets, even the rich and famous. When Forbes asked Dolly Parton about her regrets, she had a fascinating take on the moments that any mere mortal might consider a mistake or misstep. Parton told the outlet, well, I don't think it's healthy to go back and think about regrets. I don't believe there are that many mistakes in this world. I think everything is a stepping stone, and even if you make what is a so-called mistake in someone else's eyes, to me, it's something you learn from. There was one thing she did regret, however, which involves something she had to do to stay true to herself and her music. Parton told Vanity Fair that she would have loved hearing Elvis Presley sing I Will Always Love You. So why didn't it happen? Well, as Parton revealed to W, Elvis's manager Colonel Tom Parker demanded half the publishing rights to the song if Elvis was going to sing it. However, Parton just couldn't agree to those terms. She told W, those are my songs. They're like my children. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please contact the crisis text line by texting HOME to 741-741. Call the National Alliance on Mental Illness helpline at 1-800-950-NAMI 6264 or visit the National Institute of Mental Health website.